Wholesalers, welcome to another edition of Wholesaler Masterminds Radio. I've been teasing you for a while now. Brotherhood of the Bag, a Wholesaler's Handbook. Don't you like that title? Brotherhood of the Bag, a Wholesaler's Handbook. It's coming. It's coming. I'm working hard at it. Before I get to that, though, go out to the website, grab yourself one of the list of the learning modules we have. We have the Wholesaler Email Clinic, and we got Creating and Marketing Your PVP, two of our most popular topics. And speaking of PVP and being memorable and increasing your MQ, sometimes we have guests on Wholesaler Masterminds Radio that, that old expression, don't need any introduction. Every now and again, and based upon the guests that you've had the good fortune to listen to, and I've had the good fortune to interview, that we've got some heavyweight folks that we get a chance to talk to, and that's the case today. Here's a gentleman that has worked as a financial advisor, opened up his own coaching, speaking, authoring practice, if you will, in 1988. A couple of books that you may know about: Values-Based Financial Planning, High Trust Leadership. It's all about them. You've seen his work in Financial Planning Magazine, where he's in their Hall of Fame. He is NSA, that is National Speakers Association Hall of Fame. And rumor has it he actually has a new book that he is wearing his fingers, typing down to the bone on. It's called The Totally Trusted Financial Advisor. And just to titillate you with what's coming, it'll be coming in 2013. None other than Bill Bachrach is here. Bill, welcome to Wholesaler Masterminds Radio.
Wow, thanks, Rob. I really appreciate that. After that introduction and seeing your list of experts that you've interviewed, I'm feeling a lot of pressure today.
I haven't the slightest doubt you will come through in spades. So we want to talk today about this idea of what financial advisors want. And as you and I talked about in our pre-call, we did this survey with financial advisors. We crowdsourced our questions. And for those of you that don't know what crowdsource means, we went out to LinkedIn to our groups and said, hey, guys and gals, what questions would you like us to ask of financial advisors? What do they want? And we asked 5 questions, and we've been slowly putting out our answers, and we talk about our answers in our live training and presentations. I asked Bill to join us because all Bill does is work with financial advisors, and especially his coaching practice. He deals with the creme de la creme. He deals with the best of the best. These are the guys that you want in your book, your top 50 sellers, your elephants. Bill Bachrach, what do financial advisors want from wholesalers? Let's talk about 2 or 3 on this call. Can we do that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, Rob.
So what would be, if you had to put, one in neon lights, right up there at the top, what would be a headline about what financial advisors want from wholesalers?
Well, keep in mind that we essentially share the same clientele. So for the last 24 years or so, we've been running a business where we engage financial advisors. And the distinction is that they pay us directly for training to help their businesses grow and be more successful. And with wholesalers, you get paid indirectly because when they use your products and services, then you, of course, are compensated. You earn your salary. Perhaps you get some kind of basis points bonus for that. So we really are working with the same people in the same markets.
Yes.
So that's why I feel so much alignment with wholesalers and the work that they do. And in some cases, of course, I've been very impressed with the value that a lot of wholesalers add. And as you and I both know from our experience, unfortunately, many wholesalers don't add that much value. And I think to answer your question directly, it's largely a function of context. And so one of the things we're very conscious to do, for example, is we very deeply interview a financial advisor. It's a good 30 minutes to an hour of asking questions to understand what's important to them. Something I'm somewhat famous for in the industry, the what's important about money to you question, which is the core of values-based financial planning. We ask what's important about success to you and use that as the context through which we explore their actual core values, where they talk about those things, the sort of the why, the emotional why behind the tangible what. So we understand what their values are. Then we get clear about their personal goals. So what is it they actually want to achieve and accomplish? Same things that the clients might. Do they want to be financially independent? Do they have kids they want to send to college? When would they like to be in a position where work is optional? Do they want to, do something crazy, Rob, like, buy a home in Sonoma and kick back and drink a lot of wine? I mean, you never know what these people might want in their lives.
So when you talk about context, let me just tie it together now. What I hear you saying about context, because wholesalers have read this in our content and also have heard this from other experts from different fields that echo the same thing. You are spending a considerable amount of time with your ears open and your lips shut, discerning and getting to the heart of exactly what it is that the advisor wants, dreams about, needs, so that you can then fill his cup with those things. Is that right?
It's a combination of that. You're absolutely right on track with that. And then it's also when it's time to actually present your particular product or service. I mean, if you've got, an annuity or a family of mutual funds or life insurance or whatever you have as a wholesaler, can you present what you can do specifically in your product and any other services that you provide to add value? Can you present that within the context of what matters to that individual financial advisor? So a term that I know that you use is so many wholesalers, they show up and they throw up. And so you have to be able to open the conversation with a statement that creates a reason for someone to want to answer the questions. I mean, I could imagine if I were listening to this recording, I'd say, so how do you get them to want to be willing to spend 30 minutes to an hour answering your questions so that you can present whatever you're going to present within the context of their business metrics, their goals, and their values?
So you just hit on something really, really important, Bill. So whether it's, we'll take a little side street here. So you're telling me, suggesting to me, giving the best idea that we want to get as much intel as we can. And remember, wholesalers, you got 76 great questions that wholesalers ask financial advisors on the website. It's free. Go get it. How do I present the case that I want to ask good questions and you need to allow me X amount of time, whether it's 20 minutes or half an hour, to be able to do that? How do I make it an opportunity that the advisor wants to take advantage of? Because that could be tricky.
Absolutely. It's a little seldom used tactic called telling the truth.
Oh, you mean that whole transparency thing?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's crazy. It's crazy to think that you might have to resort to something as wild as telling the truth, but it could sound like this. I'm something of a wordsmith, so I'll just demonstrate how this conversation might sound. So, Rob, I know that you're a successful advisor. I know that you get bombarded by wholesalers trying to get a few minutes of your time and present their products and services. Don't you hate it, though, when somebody just tries to present features and benefits about their product or service without really understanding enough about you and your business so that they can, first of all, determine if there's really any basis for telling you about their product or service, and if there is, to put it in context. Don't you hate it when people do that to you?
That's one of the reasons I was hesitant to set this appointment with you, but I acquiesced.
So that's what I want to do is make sure I don't fall into that trap of what you hate. So in order to really be able to deliver value to you and determine if this is something we should even talk about, I do want to really understand who you are and where you're coming from. Now, I have done some homework on my own, so this is what I already know from learning about you, so I didn't have to consume your time with you telling me. But there are quite a few questions I need to ask that I think you'll find will make this work a lot better.
Wholesalers, did you hear what Bill just said? This is super important because, I just met Bill a half hour ago via the telephone. Of course, his reputation precedes him gloriously, but I just met him, and now he's talking about this thing called homework, this whole know before you go thing, and about how if you sit down at an advisor's desk and say, tell me about your business, a whole host of advisors should kick you out. So that's an important nugget I want to make sure that doesn't get away from us. You better be doing your homework before you get there so you understand some insights that help you build the trust before you even launch into anything from the questioning piece. Oh, that's so important, Bill.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's a combination of homework and then actually going deep. when you talk to people. So what I've discovered over the years with people in general is that whether it's financial advisors or wholesalers or just generally people in business, most of us are not naturally comfortable going deep. So what we tend to do is we tend to have relatively shallow conversations. And trust is built by going deep. So I've written lots of articles and books and do training. And actually, I created the whole trusted advisor movement in our business. And trust is something that can be a little bit elusive. You know, you mentioned it a couple of times in comments that you've made, Rob. But trust is a function of going deep. Having a shallow conversation about 9 or 10 subjects will never be as effective at creating an emotional connection that people call trust as going deep. So if you really expect people to trust you, you're going to have to not only learn the right questions to ask. So I heard what you said about there's a list of 76 questions that wholesalers should ask, and that's great to have some good questions. And then can you take the answer that you get and then go deeper from that answer, as opposed to just asking the next question? Going deep is what creates an emotional connection.
Wholesalers, what I hear Bill saying right there is really, really important, because think about it like peeling the onion, right? Because if all you're doing, and we've all been guilty of this, I've been guilty of this, you've been guilty of this, if all we're doing is asking the question for the benefit of checking the box that says, yep, I asked that question, then it's hollow. It doesn't have meaning. It won't establish the trust that Bill so accurately speaks about. So you have to also develop the skill of being able to peel the onion, asking the follow-up question, saying, so what I hear you saying is, and what I think that means to your business is that what you're saying, Bill?
There's some of that, but I'm also saying ask questions like, tell me more about that, rather than trying to demonstrate that I heard what you said, which is also an effective tool. I'm going to ask a question that has them go deeper from what they said. So tell me more about that. You know, when you talk about having a business that has better clients, you know, what exactly does that mean? And then I like the way you frame that, peeling back the layer of the onion. It's continuing to ask more questions about their answers that continue to go deeper and deeper, particularly some of the personal things, so you can really find out what the internal emotional drivers are. That can be relevant. So some of it is just very business centered. It's just fundamental things. I've got this many ideal clients. I'd like to have 3 times as many ideal clients. An ideal client does this kind of business with me. This is how I run my business. This is how I put my portfolios together. This is what I think about investments. This is what I think about insurance. This is what I think about comprehensive financial planning. Some of it is very nuts and bolts. And ultimately, that may be where you live. You may end up living in the relationship by adding value to the nuts and bolts, but it's the goals behind it, it's the values behind it that will drive them wanting to work with you. And that's really your goal. At the end of the day, if you have a feature or a benefit advantage, it's unlikely you'll have that feature or benefit advantage for long. Chances are you have a good product that's fairly priced. Like most every other product manufacturer, they have a good product that's fairly priced. So what has to happen so these financial advisors want to do business specifically with you? And it's oftentimes these intangibles that drive that.
Well, I'll tell you, I have something sitting on my desk. It's a quote that a wholesaler gave to me in one of our coaching programs, and he said, relationships weather the storm, which is exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about, my performance, my rider, my particular bell or whistle will come and then go, but the solid nature and the root system, the deep root system of trust will endure, and I'll get business where otherwise the product peddler, the feature and benefit purveyor is not going to get the business.
And a good way to do that, one of the things that I'm sort of famous for is I'm famous for being a very direct communicator. And I think that has helped me be very successful both as a financial advisor and in training other financial advisors because I've coined this little saying a long time ago, trusted advisors tell the truth even if it means risking the relationship. And so one of the things that you have to become comfortable with is asking questions and making statements that you know to be truthful. I'm not talking about being mean or being negative or being nasty. I'm just talking about being comfortable telling someone the truth and then being able to manage the discomfort that conversation might create so that the outcome is positive. So another thing that I'm famous for saying is, if comfort is your goal, success is not in your future. Mm-hmm. So are you really willing to deal with those uncomfortable truths? So as a wholesaler, what are some of those uncomfortable truths? I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I just asked him, I said, could I have permission to really speak candidly and tell you the truth? And that's a good way to enter into this. Can I have permission to really speak freely and tell you the truth? And with some trepidation, this person said, yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've been listening to you talk about your business and what you want to do, and I've been around this business for a long time. And I have to tell you, everything you're saying is consistent with the patterns of failure or mediocre advisors. And I think that's why, after 20 years, you really don't have a very successful business, even though you're obviously a smart guy.
What was his reaction?
There was a pause. Now, understand, I didn't open with that.
And you had a coaching relationship with him?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right.
This is someone who is this is earlier in the game than that.
Okay.
This is someone who, first of all, I'm not sure I want to invite him into a coaching relationship. So I think this is a very important mindset. So when I show up and have a conversation with someone, it's unlikely that they ever feel like I'm trying to sell them something. Mm-hmm. It's much more likely that they feel like I'm honestly engaging them in a discussion so we can determine if there's a fit. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I brought this up is I don't want to take somebody's money who has a pattern of failing to implement.
Yes.
All right? It's not good for them. It's not good for my reputation to take people in who end up failing. And so, but I want to get back to really what's the mindset as a wholesaler of doing this. I share that with you as an example because wholesalers interact with a lot of financial advisors. And so are you keeping track? Do you maybe just keep a little book, a little notebook, where a section of that notebook is behavioral traits of the most successful financial advisors I know, and behavioral traits of smart people I meet who ought to be successful but probably never will be. And it's very clear. I mean, again, I've been around this business for a long time. I've always been fascinated by that, and there are definitely patterns. There's an old saying, success leaves clues. Well, failure leaves clues also, and there are patterns for that. And so sometimes what I believe, I always look at it and say, my goal in this conversation is to have an interaction with this person that will make a positive difference in their life. And sometimes that interaction means me stirring the pot a little bit in a way that makes them think about something. They may not do business with me, but I hope that they'll remember the conversation, and even if it's uncomfortable in the moment, they'll have a favorable reflection of it. And so the last thing I'll say on this point is think about the people who have had the most impact on your life, your mentors, your coaches, maybe your parents or some other adult in your life that influenced you positively. This probably wasn't the person who kissed your ass and told you what you wanted to hear.
So true.
This was probably a person who told you the truth. Now, hopefully they did it in a caring way. Again, you don't tell the truth to be mean or nasty. Your goal isn't to make them angry or uncomfortable. But when this truth bubbles up, do you have a way of being able to articulate it that demonstrates, hey, I'm telling you this because I care about you and I think it would be helpful. And if we end up doing business together, one of the things you'll know is that I'll always tell you the truth. How do you know? Because you're experiencing that right now. You can't just walk in and say, hi, trust me, I'll always tell you the truth.
Absolutely.
It's something they experience from their interaction with you.
Bill, I'm going to take this podcast and just in the same way that you are in the Financial Planning Magazine Hall of Fame, the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame, I might put this Wholesaler Mastermind radio show in the Podcasting Hall of Fame for our site anyway, because it's been a pure joy. A couple of reminders: present with context, tell the truth that awesomeness of transparency. Do your homework. You got to be comfortable going deep. And then that last piece was this notion of directness doled out in the right manner with the right level of efficiency, with the right level of discretion is critically important. Bill, you have been a wealth of information. Wholesalers, if you want to be able to get Bill out into your territory, give him a shout. Go out to the website. I'll link up all of his contact information. I know that Bill is, of course, one of the most available, and I say available because he's active in the speaking marketplace to financial advisors, and with this knowledge, how would he not be? Bill, thank you for being here at Wholesaler Masterminds Radio.
You're welcome, Rob. It's my pleasure. I hope it makes a difference for all of you who are listening. You're doing important work. Financial advisors need your support. Keep up the great work.
Wholesalers, come back next time for another episode of Wholesaler Masterminds Radio.